Hi everybody, my name is Armen Fetulagian. I am an inspiring producer slash development exec, and I'm speaking today with Syd Vinnedge, who was executive vice president of Fremantle. And Syd, last time that we met, you gave me some background information about your career, how you got started, where you ended up. Could you just reiterate some of that?
Okay, sure. It's good to be with you again, Armen. Thank you for having me here. I was sitting here. It's interesting. I was just thinking back when I was in college. I went to college in upstate New York, a place called Colgate, and people didn't have television departments in colleges. They didn't really even have theater departments. I think there are only 2 schools in the United States who had theater departments. But we were doing Henry IV, Part 1, and I had the role of Hotspur in the school. And we had to go up to Syracuse, which was the big city near where I was. And the station there was a big station, really big station. Taped or in fact, maybe they did it live. They probably taped us doing Henry IV, Part 1. It was really interesting, and it sort of resonates being back in this type of a setting. So obviously, I started acting when I was a youngster, in high school and college. It was a hobby. It was something. I wasn't much of an athlete, and it was something to do. I debated and I acted, and it dictated to a certain extent my major in college. So I majored in English because that way I could study Ibsen and Shakespeare and various literature and have it count. And
was it challenging doing Shakespeare, but like just with the way it was written, or it just kind of came out naturally?
That's what I studied.
Right.
And we did Beckett, and we did O'Neill, and we had a whole summer stock program. It was fun. It's fun. I don't like, and I didn't like, being an actor because of the enormous amount of rejection.
Right.
When your livelihood depends on it. I loved being an actor when you had a good scene and you could just feel the audience. You could feel that the audience was really paying attention to you. It must be like a politician or a minister or something, the same sort of thing.
I remember the last time we spoke, you told me you were on a contract with, I believe it was Fox?
Fox. They offered me a contract. I didn't take it. 20th Century Fox offered, what they had back in those days, the studios had these schools, and they would put young people under contract. They were called 7-year slave contracts. And they were very enticing. The first couple of years were on 6-month options. And then it got year-long options. And in your last year, you were making enormous amounts of money. Of course, in your last year, if you were making enormous amounts of money, it's because you were worth it. They didn't throw the money around. So I had an offer from Fox to be under contract to their studio, and I had an offer from, I think the soap opera was called Another World. A lot of soap operas, and most of them were done in New York in those days. And then, fortuitously, I was offered a job at an advertising agency called J. Walter Thompson. And in those days, the advertising agencies were the ones who produced the shows on behalf of their clients.
Right.
And J. Walter Thompson had Ford and Kodak and Quaker Oats and Kraft. And so I got a job in the broadcasting department, which is really production.
So how was it transitioning from being an actor and more production side to more front office, business-oriented things?
It's, first of all, being an actor gives you a skill set that you can continue to use. So as an actor, I was very familiar with the classics, and I was well read, and I was able to evaluate the work of other actors, and so, which comes in handy in terms of recognizing talent and casting. To me, being in production was much more energizing. There was a lot more variety. Being an actor.
What exactly did you do in production?
When I went to J. Walter Thompson, what we did was we did a lot of television specials on behalf of our clients, and I also was assigned to the Kraft Music Hall. And in today's world, if I were working for a network and had that job, they would call me a producer. But in those days, especially with the advertising agencies didn't want to put their name out there. They felt that the name of the client is what counted, and the agency should be in the background. But the Kraft Music Hall was a very exciting project. We did a special every week. It was on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock on NBC. It was on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock because women would do their household shopping on Thursday for the weekend. And Kraft was a huge food company. So we had a different host every week, and we would get out there and we would produce the show on the weekends. So we would rehearse all week, usually have the host and 3 or 4 principal acts, and then we go in on Friday to the studio in NBC in Brooklyn and block, and then Saturday we'd rehearse or continue blocking, and then on Sunday tape the show.
Thank you for watching this interview with Syd Vinnedge, and please watch the next video in this series.